Okay, ready to go? So we're going to dive in now. We got a big, this is our third and final dive, at least at this stage, into conspiracy theory, right? Into information, right? I'm gonna try and take us back inside, do a little recapitulation, and we're gonna make some big, huge leaps into the source code. This is a big move, okay? So it's a lot, it's deep, it's beautiful, and it requires lifting weights. So if you're up for weightlifting, meaning if you're usually lifting 10, lift 20, right? In other words, push the system to expand, to grow our understanding. So who's ready? Who's ready to play? Who's ready? You ready? Who's ready? Do we got a yes? Do we got a yes? We ready? Are we ready to play? Are we really ready? Are we really ready? Are we really ready? Good. Drum roll. Enjoy, right? We're revolutionaries. We're getting together and we're putting this together, okay? And I want to start, and I'm filled with piles of paper around me, right? Which you know, I want to find our way here, okay? So let's just start with false flags, okay? Let's start with false flags. You ready? Here we go. And I'm going to go relatively quickly because I want to try and get really through this in a really deep way, okay? And try and understand there's conspiracy theories all over the place. And we've talked about them in depth already for a couple of weeks. So I want to now kind of step back and see the bigger view. I just want to get a sense. How many people have been here for the last 2 weeks? Well, let me do it differently. Who's new? If you're new, just write, I'm new. Okay, I just want to get a second. You know, just like how many people, if you're new, just write new. Just want to get a sense how many people are new. My sense is that most of us have been here for the last 3 weeks, right? But if you're new, okay, new, how many other people are new? So a few people, okay, new. Okay, if anyone else? I'm sure there's a bunch more people who are not writing, okay, right? Or just give me a sense, how many of, just right here if you've been here, okay? Just want to kind of get a sense, okay, here, got it, all right, not old, but here, okay, good. First week, here, okay, got it, it's a mix, okay, got it, thank you. That was super helpful, super thank you, okay? So, number one, here we go. We live in a moment of this decentralized sense making, right? Meaning, right, we can't easily rely on the sense-making organs. And in the same way we couldn't rely, or we actually know now, let's say it this way, we actually know now that we can't easily rely on the sense-making organs of, let's say, the medieval church. In the same way, we can't rely on the contemporary sense-making organisms, because the contemporary sense-making organisms are actually not aligned with the creation of the maximal goodness, truth, and beauty for every human being. So what that means is that there's disinformation in the system on multiple levels that we've talked about. I'm not going to review all of now, but disinformation means marketing is disinformation. Marketing means I have an agenda. My agenda is not based on the intimate universe. The intimate universe means that we have shared identity. That's our equation of intimacy. Our equation of intimacy is intimacy equals shared identity, right? Quarks coming together, right, to form, right? 3 quarks, a proton, neutron, and electron coming together to form an atom. Atoms coming together to form a molecule. So that structure, and we talked about 6 examples of that structure last week. That structure works in an organization, it works in a couple, it works between nations, it works in the different parts of our self, right? It works all the way across the board. That is actually the Einstein's relativity equation equals mc squared is actually about relationships. It's about the relationship between space and matter and how space and matter communicate and talk to each other. So actually relativity, the relativity formula of Einstein is actually about relationships, and it's about relationships at the level of physics. Does everyone get that? And that's actually scientifically precisely accurate, how space and matter talk to each other, how space and time communicate. It's a communicative cosmos. There's a conversation and there's meaning that's being exchanged. That's gorgeous. So relativity is actually about relationships. And the nature of reality is actually intimate. Right? There's relationship happening all the time. Right? Reality is relationships. And reality is evolution, meaning it's not a fact, it's a story, it's going somewhere. And reality is the evolution of relationships. And information is a form of relationship. Does everyone get that? Does everyone kind of get that and get that kind of deeply and seriously? That'll then allow us to take us into kind of conspiracy theories and false flags and what that means, right? So, right, relationship itself is a form of intimacy, meaning, right, relation is intimacy between parts that configure together and create a new sense of meaning, okay? So I can only understand reality if I realize that I'm part of reality, that I'm participatory, right? John Archibald Wheeler, right, a physicist who collaborated with Einstein, right, talks about this being a participatory universe. Does everyone get that? A participatory universe. Now, participation means my part, in the original Hebrew, that's chelek, my part, you with me? My part participates in the whole. That's what an intimate universe means. Does everyone get that? So that means that the structures within me, in my partness, participate in the whole. And actually, we know based on the interior and exterior sciences, and the whole actually lives in me. So now stay with me. So if I live in a reality which is disinforming me, right, then I'm deformed, then I'm violated. Everyone get this? And then the fastest growing dis-ease, because I feel uncomfortable, because I realize I'm being told a lie. Because how many people have had that experience? Someone's talking to you, and you know they're just not telling you the truth. And you don't quite know how to call it out, right? Right? And you feel uncomfortable, and you feel dis-ease. And you don't expand, you feel contracted. Right? You depress. You don't expand, you depress. The fastest growing disease in the world today is depression. And depression comes from being disinformed. Right? I'm not connected to the larger story. I don't have a sense of the intimate universe. I don't have a narrative of identity of who I am as a unique configuration of intimacy in the larger field of intimacy, which is core to the new story based on the interior and exterior sciences. And I'm told that I'm a separate self, and I only have value if I know how to produce and commodify my production based on, right, a kind of brutal competition, right, that actually gets rewarded in a particular way, right, in which those who are best at predatory relationship actually rise to the top of the stack, and I have no value in and of myself. Whoa, right, I'm depressed, right, I'm deflated. Right, I'm breaking down, I'm deformed. And that deformation, right, moves in my body, and it expresses itself as dis-ease. And it expresses itself, right, and in all sorts of short-term fixes of addiction and pseudo-eros and sugar and obesity, right, in order to cover up this deforming because I've been misinformed. Okay, so you get that? This is deep. So the information issue, right, is not a casual issue. Right? It's that actually, right, part of my very identity is that I'm part of the intimate universe. The intimate universe lives in me. The entire universe lives in me. So I'm attuned, right, to the nature of reality. So and what does reality mean? What does intimacy mean? Intimacy means shared identity. Right? So I have shared identity with reality. But that's actually true. That's not made up. That's what it means to be Homo amor. To be Homo amor means to know that I actually have shared identity with reality, that reality lives in me. Right, that the quarks, the protons, the electrons, the neutrons, it's all in me. But that's just the exterior structure. Those quarks, neutrons, electrons, cells, they're exchanging meaning, right? There's stimulus and response all the time. That's what we can see. But that's just the external structure of the message. There's actually messages being exchanged. There's meaning being exchanged. Now, does that mean that a proton and electron can write Shakespeare? No. There's obviously an evolution of meaning. There's an evolution of consciousness. Right? But it means that there's meaning all the way up and all the way down. Does everyone get that? That's unbelievably important. Information is about meaning. And we live in an informational cosmos, but not of the kind, right, that Shannon, who was the guy who kind of created information theory at Bell Labs, Shannon was working for Bell Labs, okay? And they ask him, right, okay, how can we get messages, right, bits accurately across these wires? And because we want to make more money, let's get more bits, right, more accurately across these wires, right? And so Shannon comes up, Shannon's brilliant, right? Comes up with a way of coding math through electricity, essentially what he does, right? He takes the mathematical formulas, right, bits and bytes, and turns them into electricity, right, in a way that can actually transmit accurately, right, from point A to point B, more and more information, which means neutral bits. So that's what information theory meant for Shannon. But Shannon, as my friend Howard Bloom says, right, Shannon got the math right and the metaphor wrong, but the metaphor here is everything. That's not actually information. That's actually a misusage. And his colleague Weaver, right, Warren Weaver, who was a director at the Rockefeller Institute, who published a paper with him in 1949-50, points out that actually, he says, when me and Shannon are using the word information, we don't mean what information usually does. Information actually doesn't mean what it means in the Oxford Dictionary, right? The way we're using information is the exterior structure, right, of configured bits in a particular way. So this exterior structure goes through the system accurately, but the way we're defining information, the meaning is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with meaning, right? The content is irrelevant. If you will, the message is never opened. Right? And so, for example, one paper, right, talking about, you know, Shannon's information theory says, right, that if you say the word Constantinople, right, which evokes this beautiful city in the Ottoman Empire filled with wonder and mystery and education and beauty and dazzling complexity, if you say Constantinople, or if you do a random series of the same amount of letters, it's the same information. Okay, that's what Shannon meant by information. And if you go on Google today and you find Amazon, you'll have 50,000 books with information theory. And information theory means that neutral kind of information, which is why we have social media platforms that are just about information bits and about, right, monetizing attention, but we don't really care about the quality or the content, right, or the meaning of the information. We actually, from Shannon's information theory, we generate platforms that can communicate bits of information almost regardless of what's in them. And that actually merges with postmodernity, in which the word of the year in the Oxford Dictionary, right, in 2016 is post-truth. Right, so information theory, right, is a wrong metaphor. The math is right, but it works in terms of getting more bits across the wires. But actually, information theory actually is based on a denuding of content, a denuding of meaning. And so we need to actually create a new sense, right, of actually the word's not information. The word is, Ken, you're right, it's data. We need information. And information means, stay with me, information is meaning. Information and meaning are the same. Information is intimacy. So I want you to get this word. Information equals intimacy. That's a huge understanding. Information is not measurable. Did you get that? And information is beyond measurement. Information is intimacy itself, which means that if I want to know information, I know through my own deepest sense of self. So we said last week that carnal knowledge, the word yada, is to know. And to know is to be informed. But I know through me touching you. We touch each other, right? And the sexual models the erotic, right? We touch each other. We touch each other emotionally, existentially, right? Aesthetically. We touch each other, right? Morally, right? We touch each other in every possible way. And through our touching, right? The intimacy that's me, right? Which is attuned to the intimacy that's you. And the intimacy that's you might be an individual you, and it's the field of reality itself, right? What allows a scientist to do science is the unique configuration, unique perspective of the unique self, the unique quality of intimacy, which is the scientist, that's driven by a unique curiosity to explore a unique dimension of reality. Weinberg, right, is fascinated with muons, right? That is a unique quality of intimacy, meeting the universe and then knowing, an act of carnal knowledge, an act of merging and then disclosing, receiving. Right? Information means I receive and I interpret, I open the message, right? Reality is filled with messages that need to be opened. And we, the human being, we are the openers of the message. Okay, now stay with me because it's beyond gorgeous. So there's actually an evolution of intimacy. So in the world of matter, you've got the first level of intimacy and the first level of information. And what is intimacy and information in the world of matter? It's this meaning exchange that happens, even the laws of relativity, which we've already said are the laws of relationship. And again, we mean that quite literally in terms of science. There's relationship and there's information and there's meaning that's communicated. And we actually know that at the very level of protons and electrons, we see in the exterior, we see that there's allurement and autonomy. There's attraction and repulsion. There's stimulus and response. That's the exterior that we see. But actually the interior is there's what Whitehead called prehension. There's meaning exchanges. Quarks are not the same. Quarks are unique. There's not this kind of, there's particular kinds of quarks, a very limited, right, set of quarks, 6 kinds of quarks. And then each quark has a unique trajectory. And actually, if you would actually imagine the primordial world, right, the first nanosections of the Big Bang, there's this huge, huge rave party made up of subatomic, right, elementary particles, but the elementary particles are distinct, they're unique. And it's not just that any 2 particles can find each other. There's unique allurement and attraction and communication between the particles that is innate, right, to the very structure of reality itself. Wow, right? And quarks have unique trajectories, right? So quarks have proto-uniqueness, right, and proto-feeling, and they desire to touch each other, but in particular ways. No, touch me there, touch me there, right? Not a retrojection of human consciousness onto a quark, no, right? But we participate in the same field, right? So there's actually information, communication, exchange. It's an amorous cosmos. It's a cosmos that's communicating and exchanging information all the time. Now stay with this, and it's so gorgeous, okay? Right. Actually, that's correct, Ken, right? Information becomes available when we discern it, right? Howard Bloom says beautifully, we were talking this past Tuesday, that when the receiver receives the information, then actually the information becomes awake and alive. It's a participatory universe. That's what Wheeler means. We participate in the information. The information is both there, and then it actually comes together with us, and then we reveal it, and we participate in its creation. Okay? Now this is huge, okay? So stay with me, okay? Stay with me. Stay with me. I want to go slow here and get this right, okay? So information lives in me, and my ability to receive and discern information and bring wholes together bring parts together into new wholes is my unique quality. But stay with me. Let's take it slower. Okay? So at the level of matter, you have information, right? So that is the entire structure and all the configurations, all right? The tables of elements, the tables of chemistry, right? The laws of physics, all the mathematical formulas, that's all information, right? But it's information that is organized by spirit itself. It's organized by infinity. Infinity organizes finitude and all of the patterns of information that are not just the measurable patterns, right? Information expresses itself also in measurable patterns, but there's an immeasurable, and it's the Tao that can't be spoken that is the Tao. You get that? It's the invisible. It's what Rilke calls the unsayable, and this is very important, which is why, Ken, the instruments of science, which are about measurement, because science moves, right, in the 16th century from classification to measurement, the instruments of measurement can't access that dimension of information. But we can, right? We can, because that information lives in us. But let's go slow. So that's information at the level of matter. Then information jumps to the level of life. So now we have a dog. Now, when information leaps to the level of life, when information becomes more sentient, more alive, there's more freedom. So despite Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which introduces some dimension of uncertainty into the laws of physics, there's still very strong probabilities that can allow us to chart reality with fairly large amounts of certainty. That's what science is based on. Planes fly, right? There's certainty, it works, okay? So using the laws of physics, we're able to do an enormous amount. But a dog, who's a new configuration of information, who's newly informed, who's a new structure of intimacy, a dog has more freedom. Does everyone get that? Dog's more free. Right? You're not quite sure what the dog's going to do in the next 10 minutes, right? So a dog has much more freedom. You get that? But although you're not exactly sure what the dog's going to do, but you got a general idea, right? You don't have the idea that you have the level of physics of matter. You've got more freedom in the system. You've got more interaction, right? The system impacts on you and arouses your feeling in new ways, right? So although the Grand Canyon arouses wonder and awe, right, a dog arouses a new dimension of intimacy. There's interaction. The dog has some dimension of freedom and feelingness, right? So it's a higher level of information, right? So the evolution of intimacy is the evolution of information. They're directly related, which is the evolution of love, which is the emergence of new freedoms. Does everyone get this? We're in the source code now. Is this too hard for everybody? Who's with me? Who's with me? Give me some energy here, guys. Is this too hard? I know that we're going deep and we're in the source code, okay? Shannon got this wrong, right? Shannon misused the word information. Did you get that? It was a tragic misusage, right? That generated platforms that are all about bits and not about content, right? So Facebook wants to monetize more and more bits of information. That's a direct result of information theory. Wants to monetize your attention, which is your greatest gift. Your greatest gift is your attention. Your attention is actually being hijacked and monetized, right, to actually generate more mega wealth. That's tragic, right? It's got to be about meaning. Meaning is what information is. So there's meaning, information, intimacy at the level of matter. Then there's meaning, information at the level of life. And then we jump from matter to life to what? To mind, to self-reflective mind, in which the human being begins to participate in, right, interpreting information. So the human being is self-reflective. So the human being is reflecting on the information, right? It's now hermeneutic. That's the god Hermes, right? That's magic. I get to reflect on information, and the entire history of structure stages of consciousness, right, which we call it, right, the evolution of, right, the human being. There's about 8 to 10 major structure stages of consciousness. So, for example, Jean Gebser talks about 5 structure stages of human consciousness, which is one, and his highest stage is integral. And contemporary integral theory, my colleague and dear friend Ken Wilber, is in part based on Gebser. Or, for example, who's a good example? Don Beck used his teachers, right, system, right, who was a good friend and colleague of Maslow, Claire Graves, to talk about 7 structure stages of consciousness. And they popularized it as something called spiral dynamics, right, which is from, early structure stages, right, to much deeper levels of consciousness. And consciousness means interior worldviews. There's about 7 or 8 major worldviews in reality, right? And each one is different and distinct, okay? Wow, okay? So these worldviews, for example, are kind of archaic, and kind of primitive, and then they're tribal, and then there's organized kingdoms, and then there's rational, and then there's informational, right? There's these different informational in the sense of pluralistic, right? The new age that we live in. And each one of these structure stages of consciousness has an exterior and an interior. So you might have, kind of hunter-gatherer, right? That's the exterior. The interior is a way of informing reality, organizing and understanding reality, right? Early farming, horticulture, then agrarian. It then has a new interior, which is more tribal. There's a whole other way of organizing information. I'm not going to go through what each structure stage is. And then we get to the kingdom, right? Which is larger organized systems, which are not based on bloodlines and based on principles. And we go through kind of different levels of the kingdom. Then we get to the Western Enlightenment, and we get to kind of more about meritocracy and reason and universal human rights and the scientific method. And then we jump to kind of, right, this new world of postmodernism, which is about, right, multiple possibilities and, and re-enchanting the world and bringing in minorities and victims, but actually which loses lots of the previous important pieces from the previous levels of consciousness. Then we get to this new stage that Gebser calls integral. We try and integrate all the previous stages into one new larger whole, which we call second-tier consciousness. If you didn't get that, skip it, okay? But that's just to give you a sense that every one of these structure stages of consciousness, right, let's just say it really easily, egocentric, right, me and my clan, ethnocentric, my tribe. World-centric, right? We are the world, right? Cosmocentric, everyone's included, right? All ideas, all people, right? All animals, the cosmos itself. Egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric, cosmocentric. However you tell the story of different structure stages of consciousness, it's the evolution of love, which is the evolution of information. Did you get that? Right? It's a new way of bringing separate parts together into larger wholes, right? So the evolution of information is, right, by itself, definitionally, right, the evolution of intimacy. Okay? We breathing? Who's still breathing? Who's still breathing? Who's still breathing? Anyone still breathing? Let's breathe together. We breathing? Okay. And now it gets interesting. Okay. Now it gets kind of crazy interesting. Let's kind of see it. Okay. So we're now in the Anthropocene. We're now in the Anthropocene, which means the era in which the human being, right? Went from matter to life to mind. Then in mind, self-reflective mind. Then we went through all these stages of consciousness, right? In mind, which are all the eras of human history, right? All the eons of human history. We unfold technologically, but we also unfold interior technologies. We're now at a moment where human beings doing sense making through our self-reflective minds, organizing bits of information into larger wholes, organizing different strands of meaning that we feel and intuit because we're attuned to them, because they live in us. We now organize them together into larger wholes and we create new information. It means we create new meaning, which we create new structures of intimacy, right? We create new possibilities of love, right? We create a vision of a new human and a new humanity. What is the vision of the new human and the new humanity? It's a new story. What is this new story, right? It's a new way of sense making, right? Right? It's a new story. It means a story is, right, is a whole which brings together different parts in a new synergy, which tells a new story that was never told before. So that's what the mystics called Metatron. You get this? Metatron. Metatron is the human being who becomes divine. Metatron is when I wake up to Homo amor. And Metatron is called the scribe. And Metatron is the scribe because Metatron is writing new letters, right? So from the perspective of Shannon's information theory, if I'm scrawling letters, it doesn't matter what the letters say. From the perspective of Metatron, who's the scribe of God, right, who is not just Homo sapien, but who's Homo amor, right, who is informing reality, who is co-creating with the divine. We literally become co-creators. We literally become aware of our power. We literally become aware that the infinity of power of divinity moves through us. And we have the ability, therefore, to destroy reality, which is to disinform reality, right, and to alienate ourselves from reality, which will make us depressed, what will make us diseased, right, which will cut off our ability to feel each other. Or we can actually inform reality. We can reformulate reality. And we reformulate reality by creating new formulas, by creating new memes, by creating new dharma, right? Right? New dharma, which is a whole greater than the sum of the parts, which are new synergies, which are new intimacies. Okay? So if we have a broken information ecology because someone's marketing to me based on a violation of intimacy, because intimacy equals shared identity. Right? So if the person who's marketing to me, or the person who's doing a scientific study, which is funded by, right, hidden agents who are not revealing who they are, which has an agenda, which is a return on investment, right, which has an agenda, right, to actually support visions of reality, which are purely about profit for the 1%, right, which actually leave everyone else out of the story, right? If that's what actually is happening, right, if actually I can't rely on scientific studies anymore, which I can't, without actually checking their source and their method and checking their axioms and checking who's funding them and checking what their agendas are, right? I can't rely on that. I've got to actually check, right? So science, just like religion, we look back and we realize now I can't trust the priest. Love the priest, but lots of priests are doing bad stuff. They've got other agendas. Scientists are new priests, right? And so there's some great scientists, like there were some great priests, but we don't trust scientists as a class and we don't trust priests as a class. Right? We always check, right? We check, we love people, right? And people have to earn our trust, right? Just like in a relationship, you have to earn trust. And so science has to disclose its hidden agendas. Science has to disclose its dogmatic materialism, which is actually not based on genuine information. It's based on a dogma. It's a rebellion against, a legitimate rebellion against the old church, but it's stuck in the rebellion and it claims to be science when in fact it's disinformation, right? So just like fundamentalist churches are disinforming, so dogmatic materialism of science is ignoring an enormous amount of what they call anomalies that they just kind of leave out and telling us a dogmatic materialist story, but pretending like they're not. That's disinformation. That's not okay. When someone's marketing to me and they're not actually having shared identity with me, right? They're not actually having mutuality of pathos with me. What's intimacy mean? Intimacy equals, what's our equation? Just like Einstein's equation of relativity was an equation of relationships, so our intimacy equation is an equation of relationships. Reality is relationships. Reality is evolution. Reality is the evolution of relationships. Reality is intimacy. Reality is the evolution of intimacies. We're now at a place where we're unique qualities of intimacy that are self-aware. We are evolution awakening to itself. So we are now configuring new intimacies. But we got to do that in a world in which we're informing reality. We're not deforming reality. So if someone's marketing to me, if the entire system's based on marketing, and it's based on clickbait, and it's based on demanding that I submit to a social media experiment of likes, right? In which, right, I'm actually, right, playing out all of my pathologies. I'm on Instagram, right, and on Twitter feeds and Instagram feeds and Facebook feeds. We're not getting content. We're getting bits and bytes, right? But we're not getting these new evolutions of intimacy. We're not getting the best of humanity. We're getting monetized attention, right, for the sake of the profit of the elite. That's not prophetic. We've got to move from prophet to prophetic. And prophetic means that we participate in the field, that we're all prophets together, right? That we all have a unique voice, and that unique prophecy needs to be heard, but not alone, not when I'm writing as an ego. Some people write, that's my ego expression. No. Writing is also can be hijacked as an ego expression. We're writing together as a unique self-symphony. We're sharing together. We're informing together, right? That's the new possibility, right? And so actually, if someone's marketing to me and they don't have shared identity with me, and they can't feel me, we have no mutuality of purpose. We have no mutuality of pathos. We have no mutual recognition. We're disalienated. We're misaligned from each other. There's a fundamental misalignment of agency, but there's a fundamental misalignment, right, of intimacy. It's a non-intimate universe. So you've got a universe based on marketing, right? You've got a universe based not on eros. I'd love to have erotic films online. There are no erotic films online. There's pornography. And pornography is sensation without eros. Sensation, right, which actually sells me, right, a quick experience, which fixates my attention in a beautiful way, because pornography is an illusion to something beautiful. It's an illusion to touch. It's an illusion to the art of the human body. It's an illusion to the art of intimacy, but it's actually divorced from, it's commodified, right? It's sensation without eros, and I sell it to you, and it drives the internet, right? And it's addictive because you need another hit of it, and it covers over the fact that you're disinformed by reality, right? And it's monetized, but that's not just pornography. Technically, it's a pornographic universe in which everything's marketed at me. And all the ROIs, return on investments driving the system, are hidden. Whoa, stop. I'm exhausted, right? We got to redo the story. We got to reconfigure reality, right? It's time for revolution. It's time for the evolution of love, okay? Right, so actually at the highest level, at the level of mind and self-reflective mind, at the level of the Anthropocene, we have to become Homo amor, which is Metatron, which is the scribe of God who's writing a new story, who's self-authoring, right? Our authority comes from the self-authorship of each one of us as unique selves, but working together in unique we spaces, right? Finding each other, right? Giving up the egoic mind and claiming the gorgeousness of our unique self, but in concert with each other, right? Unique self is not exactly what I want to do now. It's the unique gift that I have, a unique pleasure I have, right? Which matches the unique need of this time. And they come together, right? Unique self means, what's my unique gift? What's my unique pleasure? And how does that match the unique need? And sometimes I've got to adjust between those. And then from there, I give my unique gift, right? Which is my unique contribution, which comes from my deepest source, which is my unique source. Wow. Okay, wow. Okay, we ready? We ready? Are we okay? How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? Are we okay? So it's a lot. Okay, it's a lot. It's a big deal. So can you begin to see this? Can we see this? Can we see this, friends? This is a big deal. Okay? This is a big deal. It's like it's beyond a big deal. Right? So a unique self is a unique quality of intimacy. So unique self means I know my uniqueness. I know my quality of intimacy. And through my unique self, I can actually touch the unique nature of this time. Because every moment of time has a unique quality of intimacy. Time is intimate. The word time in Hebrew is invitation. Every moment in time is an invitation to intimacy. Okay? And I have a unique self, which is a unique quality of intimacy in me. And in that unique self, right, is my Metatron. It's my Judah characteristic, right? It's my unique quality. And so when my unique quality of self meets the unique quality of time, and then just like space whispers to matter, space and matter in the laws of relativity, so space and matter in the structural laws of intimacy come alive, and I literally hear reality whispering in my ear, and reality tells me, I need you. What do you need from me? I need your quality. How do you need my quality? I need this gift of yours. What's the gift? The gift is an expression of your unique self. And it's a particular outrageous act of love that's yours and yours alone to perform. And you actually feel that outrageous love, which is that informing, that unique intimacy moving through you. And you feel that unique quality of self that's meeting this unique quality of time, and you explode with energy. And you explode with power. And you explode with competence. And you explode with possibility. You're not trying to be someone else. And imitation is idolatry. Imitation is idolatry. Right? No, you're actually being your unique quality. You're giving your unique gift, which is intimacy incarnate uniquely as you, right? Meeting the quality of this moment. And we begin to do that, repeating that, iterating that all over the world. Right now we've got a new reality. Now we've got a new world, right? Now we've got, right, a new possibility. Okay? So with that in mind, right, we begin to have actually a kind of understanding of what we mean, right, by conscious evolution, right? This is what conscious evolution actually means, okay? Right, this is what conscious evolution actually means. Let me just stop for a second. Let me see if there's anything super important that we need to say here before we kind of go on into false flags. Anything super important that we need to say here? Okay, I think we got it. Okay? I think we got it. Okay. Are we good? Good. Okay. We're going to skip pages and pages and pages. I'm going to summarize this. And we're going to jump into false flags. Okay. I'm going to jump into false flags. David, stay with us, brother. Okay. So intimacy means to be an aggregator of parts into larger wholes. So I'm going to give you another word for intimacy. Okay, Simona? Intimacy is Shakti. We're literally birthing new language. That's where magic is. We birth new language. Abracadabra, avracadabra. I create through my speech. I birth new language. Language is intimacy, right? The bits themselves, right, are just, that's Shannon's information, but it's not information, it's data. Information is the meaning that adheres in the letters that create a new whole. And so when we create a new language and we create a new story, so then the Shakti is moving in us and aggregating. We become knowers. We become carnal knowers, right? We're making love with reality. That's literally what it means. To be intimate is to make love with reality and to let reality make love with you, right? Which is the ultimate intimacy, which actually creates new possibility. And it's erotic. It's the most erotic thing in the world. So the sexual models eros, doesn't exhaust eros. Okay, that's what carnal knowledge means. It means that omniscience, right, the knowingness of reality is evolving. There's evolving meaning in reality. We actually, as human beings, we add meaning to reality. So reality is not just a disclosure of meaning. It's that the human being, right, who receives information and opens the message and interprets the information through the meeting of the human configuration of intimacy, the human interior knowing with the objective information. When that comes together, then we have new information. So information is based on the receiver. You know, in Hebrew wisdom, right, esoteric wisdom is called Kabbalah, the receiver. That's unbelievably important, right? Meaning, and the receiver is Homo amor, is the erotic mystic, right? Is the evolutionary mystic, right? And there is no information until it's received, right? I mean, it's there, but it's half there. We need the co-creation. It's when I receive the information, I become Kabbalah, I become the receiver. And in receiving it, right, and interpreting it, right, it becomes alive, it becomes real, right? But I can't interpret, I can't say anything. It's not that I can say anything. It's not that all interpretations are correct. That's not true. And all interpretations that match the most other pieces of information and that weave into the larger whole and that actually explain reality in the most good and true and beautiful way, right? So there are hierarchies of information, right? Hamlet is not about a fishing trip. You can't say I interpreted Hamlet as a fishing trip. So it is. No, it's not, right? And so actually, right, doing sense making is to become more and more erotic. The more erotic you become, meaning the more aligned with Eros, the more aligned with your own unique Eros, which is your prism of interpretation of hermeneutics, right? The more you become the trickster of Hermes, right? Looking around, bringing pieces together, stressing your body, stressing, but in the best sense, meaning pushing, right? Lifting larger weights, right? Actually reaching beyond yourself, right? Not just doing what's called, right? My colleague Jordan called simulated thinking, right? You're doing made up thinking. You're just going through the motions, but you're actually just repeating what other people said. There's a phrase in the lineage, which is anyone who says something in the name of the person who said it brings redemption to the world, brings liberation to the world. What does that mean? You say something in the name of the person that said it. It's not just citing people, which is a big deal, but it's more than that. It's actually knowing who you're citing, right? First, know who you're citing, know who your sources are, right? Let those sources come into you. And then from that, integrate them. And then you can, after an enormous amount of commitment and dedication and fierce engagement, you can then integrate it in a new way and add something to the conversation. And most of the time we're saying things, we don't even realize where we got it from. We're actually parroting. We're parrots. We're not creators of information. We're doing simulated thinking, not real thinking. Real is connected to reality. I know where it came from. I realize what I'm saying, right? I'm integrating into a larger whole. I'm Metatron, I'm the scribe of God, right? I'm creating new language, right? I'm picking a piece of the story where I can contribute, okay? So when I become an aggregator of information, right, and I create new intimacies, okay? So anything else that's absolutely critical here? No, let's hold here. Okay, let's hold here. Okay, so now let's hold here. Let's go to the last step. Okay. Wow, it's 12:04. Okay. So be with me for a second. I don't want to go for another long period. I know my friend Tom probably has to get off, right? Right. So tell me how you are, guys. Right. I want to get to the yoga of this Dharma. This was super, super, super. Right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do, right. And stay with me for a second. Okay. Stay with me for a second. Stay with me for a second. And we're going to just take a vote here. Okay. Right. I'd like to do one more piece, but I can do it next week. Right. And then one more piece is we now have the kind of, we've now evolved the source code. We now have to kind of now go back to false flags and see how they work and what false flags are there, what false flags are not here, right? How does it work, right? So there's 70, I don't know, about 100 of us actually here, right? So can we do this? Can we do this? Or do you want to do it next week? I'm going to take a vote. Okay, how many people want to do it next week? Who's for next week? Give me next week. Give me next week voters next week. One next week. Who else? Next week. Who else? Who else? Any more next weeks? 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 Next weeks. Okay, good. So we'll go for next week. Okay. So we'll go for next week. Okay. We'll go for next week. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to do the last piece. So what I'm going to do next week is I'm not going to review the structure of information. We wanted to make a huge leap today. Okay, Tom. Tom, you confusing me, brother. Right? Tom's saying this week. Tom's trying to make me confused. Okay. Right. So we're going to do next week. Right. And what we're going to do is we're now going to apply this to the present situation. Okay. And we're going to actually look at, okay, what's the definition of a false flag? What are the false flags that are out there? Where are they coming from? And how does the Dharma, right? How does the new story function in order to overcome false flags and to actually create the new possibility. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so let's just hold for a second. So first, I just want to apologize. I know I did this quickly. I tried to, in a period of, I don't know, 40 minutes, do actually a complete revolution. Those of you who are following relativity and Shannon and got what we were doing, I was doing what's called, with permission, just just gentle. It's called second simplicity, right? So we could have footnoted this for 10 hours. I tried to do second simplicity, okay? Where you begin to kind of feel it come together. So each one of these, and if I could show you I'm gonna just do something weird for a second. I want to do something here. Let me just be weird for a second, guys. Here we go. Ready to be weird with me? Here we go. So just take a look here, okay? So this is just pieces of paper, piles of paper, piles, right? So all of those piles, right, are just notes that I was taking through the night and last Saturday night, trying to put this together, right? And so we're bringing this together, right? I mean, I spend all of Saturday, right, in Shannon, and trying to understand where Shannon went wrong, and talk to my friend Howard Bloom, and kind of going in so many different pieces here. This is a big deal, right? This is a big deal, okay? Sense making is everything. The unique self has to do sense making. And we have to actually reclaim sense making, not as individuals, but as a unique self symphony. Did you get that? We can do sense making together. You can't do sense making without core axioms. Does everyone get this? Tom, this last sentence is for you. You can't do sense making without core axioms. Does everyone get that? Core axiom means that you bring together the best of interior and exterior sciences, and you have simple principles. This is a very, very big deal. My body's shaking, right? The Dharma is the core axioms. That's what a Dharma is. Now stay with me one more sentence. When you iterate core axioms in new mediums, you create new realities. Okay, so unique self is a core axiom. But for those of you who studied unique self, right, with us over the last 10 years, unique self is not my Myers-Briggs test. Unique self is a very deep core axiom that we capture in the word unique self, at the unique expression of the larger field of consciousness and desire. It's a huge sentence. And we have a unique self formula, which I won't give you right now, which many of you know. But that formula is 3 lines, but every word of that formula matters. It's a core axiom, right? I've spent 1,000 hours and we've talked about it together. We've spent a decade together, Tom, at Wisdom School. And Terry, we flew out to North Carolina to do it, right? And we did it in Mystery School time and time again. And we did it in Holy of Holies, right? So we've got this core axiom of unique self, and a core axiom of unique self symphony, and a core axiom of tenets of intimacy that we're unpacking, right? So the core axioms are everything. So imagine we're in the Renaissance, we're in Florence, right? The next 5 years is getting the core axioms down, right? In this set of this great library. And then the core axioms iterate, and the core axioms allow you to navigate disinformation. You can't navigate disinformation without core axioms. Core axioms evolve. They're not like the perennial philosophers thought. They're not fixed eternities. They gradually evolve, but they evolve within their own inherent integrity. Without core axioms, you can't move. Core axioms is a shared story, but the shared story is not made up. Right? It's actual core axioms that reflect the best information we have, woven together by Metatron, the scribe, which is us, which is the human baby-faced divine, weaving together the next evolution of intimacy, which is the evolution of God. Right? So God both holds us and God is in us in the same moment. Right? God says, I love you so much, I'm willing to be more through you. So I invest myself in you. I pour myself into you. I pour my spirit into you so you can speak as me and create a new story, right? And inform a new story. And I'll hold you. And I gift you with my love by giving you this gift of co-creating with me. And when you die, you come back into my arms and you learn what you learned, and then you go back and you inform reality again. And it's mystery. There's mystery here beyond imagination. You've got to feel this directly. Right? Words can't even hold it. Right? And it's underneath the information, which is measurable. There's the information, which is the quality of feeling and the quality of intimacy and the quality of touch and the quality of aliveness. Right? And so we're interior scientists, and we are mystics, and we're evolutionaries. And then we're exterior scientists, and we weave it together in a larger whole, but we weave it together in a second simplicity. Core axioms, simple principles. The way reality creates is through second simplicity principles. And this is huge. And this is, I came to this the way I came to it. Howard Bloom came to this completely independently, based on all sorts of mathematics that I don't understand, because he's so much better at mathematics than I am. But he came to the exact same conclusion. I think Howard Bloom is one of the best minds we have today, right? Reality iterates. Iterates means it repeats simple principles in new mediums deeper and deeper. And those simple principles generate, right, the physical laws of reality, but they also generate, right, interiors. They generate new structures of intimacy, right? Physical structures are intimate structures aggregated together, aggregated atoms, aggregated molecules exchanging information. Cells are aggregated pieces of information talking to each other, informing each other across the entire system. And then the noosphere, the world of self-reflective mind, is aggregating. We're coming together, right? And if I'm not a unique self, I'm a cancer in the body politic. I want you to get that. I've got to, right? Unique self is a holy obligation. Reality needs my gift desperately. If I'm not giving my gift, right, I'm actually violating the system, right? Reality needs my intimacy. It needs my beauty. And no teacher, no guru, no one can tell you what it is. You got to find it. You can be guided. We can all guide each other. But you got to find your unique gift that's needed by all that is. And then you give it with all your passion. And then all of a sudden, reality's wildly meaningful. You're not searching for meaning anymore. It's right in front of us. So love you all madly. Thank you for staying with us, right? Thank you for loving each other. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for letting me love you. Thank you, Barbara, right? We're all Metatron together. We can't do it without each other. We don't want to do it without each other. Yay. Anyone wants to say hi? So Christina Almon will bring us on, right? Just to see each other for a second. Right? What a crazy delight, right? What a crazy delight. What a crazy honor. Right? What a crazy honor. And I know Tom wanted us to go another hour, but we couldn't. Right? So love everyone. So much love.